Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan, and today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon where I talk about their movies, of course, obviously, other merchandising like their shirts. Okay, I don't review shirts, but still, whatever merchandising they have or theme parks, whatever, guess, just whatever is related to Disney. There's a good chance I'll talk about it. Anyway, so okay, I'm going to be talking about the sequel trilogy again. No, this is not to bash the trilogy or anything, of course. The sequel trilogy, I mean, because I might be a majority in this, but I actually did quite enjoy this. So yeah, I know the fan base just despises these movies because apparently they're too political. It's too woke, apparently. But main stuff political in itself doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. You know, it can be really decisive. And when you think about it, the Star Wars films were already ruined. They were already ruined. The canon, the expanded universe, it was already ruined with the prequel trilogy. What are you talking about? So yeah, some people may argue that this is even worse than those, which is a lie. But the thing is that politics, yada 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 and whatnot. These movies are just a hot mess, and people just getting angry at these movies. And even though these movies were always political ever since the original films, yeah, there's politics in there. It's there, but you get mad at Disney for doing that. What? So okay, you can make characters attractive in fighting games, which is fine. You can do that. I'm not against that. But so you're telling me that this kind of a thing is actually allowed, and no one really batted eye. The more level-headed people would be okay with that, of course. But okay, that could be acceptable. Another thing that seems kind of strange to some extent is that I guess you can see these fighting movies, okay, these action movies. I guess we see the blood, gore, and all that. Yay, that's fine. No one bats an eye. Okay, and that's acceptable. And then if a trans woman gets murdered and and people would accept that's okay. It's kind of don't you think that's a bit transphobic? Don't you think? Okay, it is very. And people would just make fun of the kaiju films because the low budget and because they're Japanese. So that's okay. I don't get that. How some things are acceptable but not others? I don't get it. It just seems right. Nobody should be bigoted in any shape or form, obviously. But if Star Wars wants to put something like this, now everybody is gonna be flipping their shit. Are you kidding me? What?
Federal Supreme Court had no jurisdiction to rule over marriage, let alone the fact that, again, I repeat, they have no right to make law. But we live under a lawless administration. We live with a president that says he has a pen and a phone. He bypasses Congress, he tramples on the Constitution, tramples on the Declaration, tramples on separation of powers.
You keep love. You loved her, you were close, and your influence may have something significant to her. So the idea is you don't gain anything by shunning, but at the same time, you don't want your children to grow up as lesbians. That's what you're talking about. You don't want to show them that that's an acceptable lifestyle for your family.
When we stepped forward last year and challenged this mayor, we knew we were taking on a formidable situation. We knew the reality of politically of the city of Houston. And frankly, we had allowed a lesbian mayor to be elected because most of the churches were asleep and just didn't care. They didn't understand the consequences of putting somebody in political power with the authority of the sword who has literally rejected every element of the created order of God and his word and his moral truths.
Well, once they followed the law of Moses, now they're calling that wrong, evil. Now we follow Baal. Now we follow promiscuity. Now we lift up our children on the altars of Baal. So it was everything. And now if you still hold to what we once held to, you're an enemy of the state. Elijah, Ahab looks at Elijah and says, you You troubler of Israel. He calls Elijah the troublemaker, the hater, the intolerant.
Right.
And Elijah says, no, you're the troublemaker. You have abandoned the Lord our God. That's the way we have to be. But it's
Yeah, none of that made any sense. Nothing right there made any sense whatsoever. At all. Okay. Just people jumping the guns as usual. I don't mind it. I don't mind Star Wars being political. This is what I'm getting at. Even though people just take things out of context. Like this guy, for example, something about Clone Wars or something.
The heritage of Christianity in the military is under attack. They took Christian ethics out. One of the first things this president did.
What are you talking about? What do you mean by that? I see what's going on here. You don't like being challenged. That's what it is. I thought thou shalt not kill, but you want the Bible stuff to be in the military? I don't get it.
It's becoming increasingly more difficult now for soldiers to pray in public and share their faith with others. Bibles are being banned from Walter Reed Medical Center. What? And some soldiers are being taught that they shouldn't join.
What? Huh? What? Huh? What? Huh? What? Exactly. That's what I want to know. What? Huh? Huh? What? Huh? What? Huh? What? Huh? What? My head hurts. I have no idea what's going on though. It's confusing. What about Star Wars? What about anything? Man, whatever.
Christian groups like the AFA, American Families Association, because they're a hate group.
So, okay, I think, no, that's not what's going on here. Okay. Okay, this organization, I've spoke about this before in one of my previous videos, and the thing is that you can have family values and support gay people, and you can be against the woke culture and support capitalism, and, support the LGBT plus community, but these people right here don't seem to understand that. Somehow you're against family values, somehow you're against all things that are considered, good by, most people. You're against that somehow. What is this based upon? How is supporting uh, this kind of thing means you're against that? I don't get it. Oh boy, this photo story is dragged out. Yeah, let me see here. The Spanish Empire and the Imperial Rome. Yeah, they were pretty much controlled by the Catholic Church, so to speak, and they did a lot of questionable stuff just because under the name of Jesus. Hey, God's okay with it. We must be okay with really twisted things. And I mentioned this before, but this kind of stuff seems to be brushed to aside. Must I remind you of Jamestown? Anyone? Hello?
I want to make it very clear. I'm not suggesting that you have to be a Christian to be in the military, but what you do have to have is a moral set of standards. And for most people, those moral lines come from God. God gives us.
Yeah, what a bunch of bullshit. In other words, you're not a good person. You have no morals if you don't believe in Jesus, is what people like him are trying to get at. That doesn't make any sense because concerning the fact, why do you need a book, this old ancient book that was written by people like thousands and thousands of years ago to tell you what's morally right and wrong? There's a bunch of stuff in the Bible that's highly questionable. That's actually considered wrong by normal people. People who actually have a head on their shoulders, acting as though that you have to be Christian to be a good person. That sounds like a dictatorship. That just comes off like all the people who are Christian. Okay, a lot of them anyway. Not all. A lot of Christians basically just want to control what you can and can't do. That sounds like a damn dictatorship and whatnot. I'm not trying to say all Christians are like this. There's a good chunk of these individuals I'm talking about all like this. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about the crazy people, of course, the people who make no sense. But that aside, I can observe that you can have a good moral compass if you're not a Christian. If you refuse to be a Christian, you're an insane person. You're a nut job. What is this based upon exactly? That makes no sense. Yeah, which I don't understand how these individuals could try to have some sort of moral compass when the very book that they're saying has perfect morality has very questionable stuff. So yes, this sounds like a complete contradiction. Thou shalt not kill, Yeah, you guys want to have a use an army to murder folk who you don't like. How does that make any sense? I don't get it. I'm trying to view women as just property. That's another thing. That seems really odd as well. What about loving thy neighbor? That doesn't seem like the thing that would they would actually practice. Actually loving each other and respecting each other. The book that they're reading the stuff from seems like the exact opposite. That's speaking stuff that don't make no sense. And they were perfectly fine. A lot of these Christians are pretty fine murdering people anyway. They can go ahead and take stuff over by force, by using violence. Like what happened in with Rome. A lot of violent stuff happened because, hey, God said so. Yeah, when Rome basically became an empire, a lot of you Christians were pretty okay with it because, hey, God said so. God says it was okay. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Once again, it sounds like communism, which it is. That doesn't make any sense. Again, what the hell are you even talking about? This is dumb. Real dumb.
Moral lines, natural rights, and natural laws that everyone can agree on. When you erase God or nature's God and nature's law and you take them out of the picture, you erase our moral standards.
So basically, in other words, in order to be a good person, as mentioned a moment ago, you have to be a Christian. You have no other choice but to do that. You either be you either be a Christian or you be made to. Again, that sounds like complete control. That doesn't make any sense. Come on. Funny how a lot of these religious individuals will claim that helping the LGBT plus community or women's rights is the same thing as communism when they were perfectly fine with having a dictatorship as this kind of thing has happened way before because these kinds of individuals had became really violent. That was pretty fine with them. They don't seem to have any issue with violence as long as it benefits them. But if somebody fights back, then they'll have an issue with it. What the hell? And yes, of course, when you think about it, obviously, Star Wars took a lot of inspiration from real life, of course, events and tied to the stories, of making them darker and gloomier or whatever. And how a certain organization will help itself somehow to become an empire and whatnot, in some sort of like Rome did through certain methods, obviously, and just kill off anybody that they didn't like. Yeah, this is sounding awfully familiar when you think about it, but there you go. Anyway,
And a society with no moral compass will not last. Now, I want you to combine what you know about the dissolving of our ethical and moral structures.
gaslighting, nothing but gaslighting. You can't be. Oh boy.
With this new piece of information that came out this weekend. Google.
You realize you can't be corrupted and be Christian? That is possible, you know. Christ.
Has increasingly positioned itself as a key contractor for the U.S. military. So now Google, do no evil.
So Google wants to help the military. So what? Why is that wrong? Christ.
Is now part of the industrial complex, working closely with the NSA now for at least 6 years that we know of. And now they are expanding their ties to the U.S. defense as they have purchased at least 8 robotics company that we know of with the sole purpose of supplying the U.S. military with these things.
Yeah, we all remember the whole cloning thing and robots, droids, yeah, killer droids or whatever up in Star Wars. Yeah, he's trying to act as if that kind of thing is going to happen. So he's trying to make it seem it's so scary, it's so spooky, it's going to happen. He's making stuff up again. Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't. Robots that are humanoid. Humanoid robots. That's good. Did anybody see did you guys see the Star Wars where Emperor Palpatine?
Okay, first of all, you don't cut it the Star Wars. That's not how you say the Star Wars. Okay. Yeah, he's doing that thing I was talking about, doing the whole comparison thing, but he's trying to say, like, what? I'm confused here. How is there a connection of some kind? So basically, yeah, his video is almost over, by the way. So basically, he's saying that the non-believers, the people who are not Christian, are basically doing the whole popping theme thing in Star Wars. He's acting as if that the non-believers are doing that, the heathens. Even though you think about it, that's what the Christians wouldn't mind doing. The Christians wouldn't mind doing that, and they've done that. They made empires before. You can look it up yourself. That has happened. What the hell?
Was like, yes, just as I have foreseen. Oh, there they are. Look, the humanoid robots.
Okay, that was a bad popped impression. That was terrible. And I'm helping to do that. Apparently, according to him, people like me are doing that. Since when are we doing that? Based on what? What are you talking about? What? This makes no sense.
A giant technology company ingratiating itself and ingraining itself into the U.S. military. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think that probably ends very well.
Christ almighty. This is just an agenda. That's all this is. Just a straight up agenda that he's creating. But even though he's acting as if everyone else is doing that, even though he's doing it himself. If anything, it's no you, no you, no you doing it, no you doing it, no you, no you, no you, no you, no it's you. No, you are about what am I? I know you are about what. This is so ridiculous. Again, I don't mind Star Wars being political, but this is ridiculous when you think about it.
Have we seen the movies? You remember Terminator? There's another one. See, he comes back, says, "Where is John Connor?" Yeah, I don't believe in time travel. Wish I did, but nobody's going to come in from the future and say, "Where is John Connor's mother?" If you're John Connor's mother, please teach him what the future is. It's not good.
Again, that's what you Christians are doing. Even though he's saying the non-believers are doing, but you Christians have done, like the whole Roman thing I just mentioned a moment ago. The Christians had done this kind of thing before. But of course, he doesn't want to bring that up at all because it's going to make him look bad. Of course. So, of course, this is pretty absurd. This seems like what's going on exactly. Of course, you're just going to make shit up that has nothing to do with anything. Of course, Christians like this are just going to act as if this never happened. The bad things that the Christians have done, of course, they're going to completely ignore it. I'm not surprised. Of course, you would. But like I was saying, folks, I don't mind if Star Wars is political. I'm fine with it. But what gets me is that a lot of people tend to ignore it. A lot of people attempt to act as if it never happened. But there's politics in Star Wars. Yes, politics has Star Wars and has been in Star Wars since the very beginning. So I don't get as to why a lot of people seem to think that it doesn't happen. But have you not seen the films like at all? Yeah, but Disney is not the only one to make it political. Like at all. I don't mind it being political, like whatsoever. So I just want to discuss this kind of thing, how a lot of people think pretty much everything out of context because they think they're in the right, but they're not though. Oh boy. So yeah, I just think it's pretty weird. People have this kind of notion where they think that they're in the right here. So I still don't know what he's talking about. I still don't know what any of this have to do with anything. Like what? I mean, okay, I talked about it before where other people have spoken about Star Wars before. Like how, like in Kevin Swanson. Yeah, Kevin Swanson seems to think that having a female lead in Star Wars means it's a bad thing somehow. But of course, that's a complete lie. Oh boy.
Film of the decade. It's already at the 6th most popular film ever. According to Box Office Mojo, they're up to $600 million in domestic box office receipts, $1.2 billion worldwide. And that's a lot, my friends. That puts it at number 6 in the history of the American box office. The Last Jedi, another version of the Star Wars trilogy or the Star Wars series. And The Force Awakens, by the way, is the number 1. It's edged out Avatar as the most popular film ever in the history of American filmmaking. The Force Awakens, number 1 now. Number 6 is The Last Jedi. Number 2, of course, Avatar. And as a genre, of course, it's the Star Wars worldview. It's the Star Wars monism and the Avatar monist worldview that have created the greatest blockbusters of all time. Friends, again, you have to ask yourself, what church are we attending when we are stepping into these popular movies and realizing that Avatar and Star Wars both reflect something of a monist or at least a pantheist worldview in the case of Avatar, in which all is one, and there is absolutely no creator-creature distinction. There's actually no creature distinction either. So Avatar and Star Wars make up the 3-4 of the top 6 most popular films ever in the history of filmmaking in America. And so for that reason, I think it's important for us to analyze these worldviews when children just walk into the theaters and they just absorb whatever. And you find them walking out of your church 27 years later and you're asking yourself, what happened? Well, friends, if they've been attending a Muslim mosque and sitting at the feet of an imam for 27 years, there's a reason why they are leaving your Christian church. So just keep that in mind if they're not engaging the war of the worldviews and they're walking out of the church, 60, 70, 80% of the millennial generation leaving their Reformed churches, leaving their Baptist churches, the fundamentalist churches. And you're saying, why are they leaving the churches when they have been attending a different church? That is, they've been sitting at the feet of the producers of Star Wars and Avatar for 27 years out of their life. Friends, they're getting a different religion. They're getting discipled in a different way of thinking. So again, this isn't just sci-fi. This is a self-consciously Eastern mystical approach or a monist approach that is escaping from the true reality of God. And this has dominated the box office for about 8 to 10 years.
So Kevin, when you say it's monism, I saw the most recent Star Wars, and I found myself moaning throughout the whole thing. It was just a rehash of the same thing. But what do you mean by monism? What is monism?
Well, let's talk about the basic worldview of Star Wars. In this particular movie, Luke levitates and projects an image of himself to a different location and actually fights Kylo in a different location as he exists in another location. And ultimately is a worldview that puts mind over matter. And Bill, let's talk about the mind over matter worldview just for a moment. I'd like to summarize the Buddhist view, where there's, of course, no supreme God, no self. The ultimate reality is sunyata, which is the void or the emptiness of formlessness, from which they say that everything has arisen, that is, everything's come out of this formlessness. And the belief is that the world is falling and rising, and peace will come with the cessation of rising and falling. And indeed, that happens with Luke Skywalker at some point in the movie. He finds his ultimate peace with the cessation of the rising and the falling. So there can be no joy or peace in formlessness because the self is not there, since there really is no self. But this is the metaphysic of monism, where there just is no distinction. When we say that, when we bring out a Christian metaphysic, what do we say? We say that there's one God in 3 persons. We call the Trinity the ultimate oneness and the ultimate manyness in one God. That is, we don't believe in a monist worldview that is all is one and that we are God ourselves because there is no distinction between creator and creature. We don't say that. Whereas the monist worldview says there's no distinction between creator and creature. And actually, there's no material spiritual distinction either. All is one, all is spiritual. And so the Eastern way of thinking is really an attempt to commit the suicide of the mind, because all thoughts are inescapably revelational of true and living God. So what's happening here, make this as simple as we possibly can. Man is running away from God. Man is hiding from God in the garden, refuses to come face to face with his creator and acknowledge that he is in rebellion against God. And he's come up with many creative schemes whereby he can believe something else besides the existence of the true and living God. So this is what is going on, friends, in the monistic worldview. It's a rejection of the Trinity. Man is running away from God. Man is running away from true reality, and that is God. And he, of course, is denying the material world. Now, why the levitation? Why the mind over matter? Okay, here's how to explain why the mind over matter. You see, the goal.
Okay, it went way longer than that, folks, obviously, but I'm just going to show a section of that. That was it. I've spoken about this specific podcast of his before in a previous video. Yes, people like him take a grudge against Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, specifically, as if it was a dying civilization, as if humanity is doomed somehow. And just because it has a female lead, the Last Jedi somehow proved that civilization society is crumbling somehow. Just because there's a woman, you realize this kind of thing was in the original trilogy, right? Did you just conveniently forget about Princess Leia? Princess Leia, you forgot about her? Oh boy. Yeah, so yeah, he doesn't like the fact that these movies can be political. Yes, like I said, I personally don't mind if these movies are political. I'm fine with it, really. I don't mind it. It's been done not in a stupid way, of course, and whatnot. Not like how they're trying to do it. But the thing is that, yeah, of course, Star Wars can be political. It was always there. I know a lot of fans like to deny that when you think about it, but it was always there. When you come to think about it, it was always there since the very beginning. So I don't know why people like Kevin Swanson are basically complaining about, oh, it's political now. It's about politics. It was always there since the very beginning. So what are you talking about? The whole feminist thing, it was there from the very beginning. And what agenda? It doesn't mean there's an agenda. It doesn't mean they hate men. It doesn't mean that they want to destroy men. It doesn't mean they want to just get rid of all men in general. It doesn't mean they want to be top dog. What? What are you talking about? Women can make money if they want. Again, sexism. I know this is a very sensitive subject matter. I'm not going to be on here for too long. This specifically, I mean. Yes, women still get discriminated against for being women. Unfortunately, yes, this is still a thing. It just seems kind of odd that a lot of these individuals just want to hold to these old ideas, these old traditional ideas, and having a woman be a housewife, just produce a bunch of babies and whatnot, be nothing more than a baby factory and whatnot. What are you talking about? So, if a woman wants to be a housewife, it should be her choice, which I've mentioned before in my other videos, but she has to bring in some sort of income. That's the thing. I know that's kind of funny for me because I had 8 different marriages and they all failed. I know. But that doesn't mean I don't have a point, is what I'm getting at. Yes, women can be assholes, men can be assholes. No one is no one's gonna be safe from being an asshole. Everybody's capable of being a prick, regardless of gender. It doesn't matter. The gender doesn't matter, or what. It doesn't matter where you came from or whatever. Everybody is capable of being an asshole. Everyone is. So I don't know. Everybody's capable of being corrupted when you think about it, or what have you. I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just so confused here. That's all I'm saying. I'm just so confused. Because none of this makes any sense, like at all. Again, yeah, sure, style can be political. You know, it was always there from the very beginning. So it wouldn't surprise me if this kind of thing still continues. But all right, whatever. Let me just end this already. So this is almost 30 minutes. Holy hell. But yeah, folks, I do appreciate anybody for watching. It's just something I decided to talk about. I know, again, like I said before, talk about politics can be very decisive. I personally don't mind it. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, people can be level-headed at times, anyway. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and take care. Until next time, see ya. Oh yeah, later. Yes, sorry. Oh boy.